My name is Dr. Vanessa Guyton. I am the Executive Director and founder of Hush No More, and I'm also the CEO and Executive Trainer for Consulting Experts and Associates. I have 6 children, and I am divorced. I was born in Sanford, Florida, and I grew up in Orlando. I did not have a nickname growing up. It was Vanessa. As a child, I was a loner. I like to be by myself, even though I come from a large family. I love to read. I love to just have my time where I can think and learn. I love history. I love science. And I went outside because I had to go outside because I had a lot of cousins, but I really was an inside child. But I was the typical good kid that did some mischievous stuff, but I think out of all the kids in my family, I was the nicest. For me, it was difficult, different from a lot of my friends. It was what really created the woman that I am today. I grew up in a family that had a lot of domestic violence, a lot of crime, a lot of drugs. My mom and dad divorced when I was 7, so that was a lot of abuse in the home. My grandmother had 22 children, so my family is large, a very large family. And some were more nicer than others. A lot of unhappiness, a lot of trauma, but a lot of love, a lot of fun. So I think it was a balance growing up. Growing up with a large family is different than my other families because we never sat at a dinner table. It was just too many of us. So when I would go to my friend's house, they would sit at a table, and I'm like, we never sat at a table. So I know my experiences were different. And growing up in the South with a grandmother that had experienced a lot of trauma and abuse, she grew up on a plantation even though they were no longer slaves. That mentality of not trusting white people, not trusting outsiders, really did have an effect on me. But I learned from that and was able to really still be productive, still do good in school, even though we were poor. I didn't even know we were poor until high school. that was the game changer for me. It was like, you're poor. And so I think my mindset shifted when I realized, because we had, but we didn't have, but none of my cousins, none of us had, so it wasn't like one person was greater than the other. So I didn't really notice that we were living in poverty until high school, when the kids had cars, they had nice clothes, they were different. So that's how I grew up. Some of the beliefs that were part of my family culture was that God was important, that church was important, and that religion was the most important thing in your life. So I came from a background of going to church. If you weren't in school, you were in church, a lot of church. My mom is even a minister today. So church, religion, that was real big for me, and that you had to listen to the pastor, that was the ruling authority. And I didn't always agree, but religion and faith. And we really were secluded from people that didn't have the same faith. So growing up in a non-denominational, we grew up in Church of God of Prophecy. And we were around people that had the same faith, so I didn't get to know other outside religions, nothing outside of Christianity. That was a belief. My grandmother was real big on not trusting people. And so I know today I still deal with trying to trust people because she didn't trust people. She always believed that people were really hurtful and that they were trying to get over on you, and that you shouldn't believe and trust everybody. Some more principles that I grew up with that I think that really affect me today was that you were dealt a certain circumstances, and that's just what life was, and you just had to deal with it. Not that you could really change your life, but this is what it is, and just be appreciative of what you had. Like, you're not supposed to want too much more than what God has already given you. Be grateful for what you have. So I don't think that I had a principle of getting more. It wasn't about being able to go to college, that really wasn't pushed on me. Education wasn't big. My family were sharecroppers, right? My mom did go to college, and she did start going to school once I was in high school, but it wasn't, the focal point wasn't education. And so I think that really made a difference. It was really getting a high school degree, getting a good job, what they considered a good job, and really not going to jail. So that was some of the lessons and some of the things that were required. One of the hardest moments I had growing up was really growing up in a home where my mom and dad would argue all the time. I was the one advocating for the divorce because I didn't think that that's what marriage was supposed to be. I didn't think that two people should be unhappy. So that was the challenging. And we were a military family. So my dad was in the Army. So we had, at that point in our life, we were living in like government housing. We had a community. But after my family divorced, that's when life changed. That's when I realized we're poor. That's when we went into this space of that we didn't have, was after the divorce. And I saw my mom real sad, having to go through a divorce, no longer having a husband, and she had 3 girls that she had to take care of herself. And I'm crying, but I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I'm proud of my parents for, one, getting a divorce, for changing the status of being in an unhappy relationship, and being friends today, figuring out how to really work out having a family that was toxic, essentially, but they figured it out. And so it gives me tears to know that we overcame that challenge as a family unit. The individual who had the strongest influence on my life was Miss Stallworth. And I haven't thought about her in years. Miss Stallworth was my first grade teacher, and she let me know that I was smart. Thank you, Miss Stallworth. She passed, but she was the first person that said, you can learn and your life can change through books. The person who had the most influence on my life, and I'm smiling because I haven't thought about her in years, and she has passed, but it was Miss Stallworth. Miss Stallworth was my first grade teacher. She was the one that told me that I was smart and that I could read, and that you can escape through books, and that books will take you to a different dimension, and that you can have any life that you want to lead in a book. Even if at home wasn't nice, the book would be. And so thank you, Miss Stallworth. She really was the one that told me that I was smart and that I could do anything that I wanted to do. And she challenged me by giving me books that were like 3 grades level higher. And so I love that. I loved her for that. And educators are very important in our lives. So, Miss Stallworth. After high school, I just wanted to get away. I wanted to get away from the projects. We grew up in a projects called Chocolate City. And if you've ever heard of Chocolate City in Florida, it is not Walt Disney. It's not what people think. It is a place where you do not want to live, but because I had my own room, I was grateful for moving to the projects, but I was also ready to get out. And when I was 17, I got pregnant with my daughter, Tiara. So I knew that I did not want my daughter to ever have to grow up in the projects, to have to live in poverty, and not to have health insurance, because I saw what it was like to be poor, and that I wanted my daughter to have so much more. So I decided to join the Army after high school. That was the next step, because I knew that they were going to give me money, food, housing, and also pay for college, because since I had a daughter, I didn't know how to navigate the system and still go to college as a single mom. So I decided to join the military. The Army was challenging for me, and that was because I was not athletic at all, And because I had a daughter and DNA and genetics says that I'm very hippie and shapely, I was considered overweight. Even though I was fine, I had a body. I was considered overweight. I always had to be taped because of that. So I wasn't very athletic, but I love my job. I was human resources, love what I do. So that part was really good. And I was able to go to college. The military paid for my education. They gave me experience that I need. They gave me a skill set that a lot of individuals do not have in our society. And it gave me opportunities to travel the world. Gave me the opportunity to get the most money that I had ever made in my life was when I joined the military. So for me, it was an overall good experience, but everything wasn't good. But I'm very grateful for the military because I don't see my life any other way than being in the military. So for me, the things that I did not like about the military was the culture where it's acceptable for sexual harassment, where it was acceptable for people to prey on other people. I thought that if we were all in the military, that we all were battle buddies. We were strong. We were supposed to stay together, and that each other was going to hold on to the other, lift you up, and have your back. I thought that's what the military was going to be like, and I was a little naive. Because I grew up in the church, it wasn't like I was drinking before I was in the military. I didn't have a lot of experiences. And so I feel like I was free, right? I was free when I joined the military. And although I was taught not to trust people, I did trust people in the military. I just thought that everybody was cool, that they were there to serve their country, and that they were going to be able to motivate everyone there to be the best that they can be. So I didn't realize that there were snakes among us and that everybody was not who they were supposed to be. And a lot of times it was the leaders. Our leadership would have a little bit more experience than the younger soldiers coming in, and I think that that was toxic, and that it also led to a lot of abuse, and it also led to a lot of unhappiness, because when you're 18 you really don't know a lot of things. And so that's the part that was very challenging for me. At my first duty station, I went to Germany, from Florida to Germany, and I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to be a soldier. I wanted not to be a girl. I wanted to be accepted, especially since I couldn't run, right? So I really wanted to fit in. And so I trusted my leadership to be able to pour into me, to be able to advise me. But my supervisor, my battle buddy, was not who he was supposed to be. I was the post commander secretary, a very prestigious position, one of those positions where it was respected and I had to be at the top of my game. And when you are working for the commander always have a driver. He always has somebody that's there in the office, and that's who was my battle buddy, my supervisor. And I say battle buddy because I believe that we're supposed to be an army of one, right? But he was my supervisor. He was like my advisor, the person that told me how to be promoted, how to pass my PT test, go to college, how I could be the best that I can be. And he was infantry, so he was high speed. He had all the decorations, all the awards, and I trusted him. I trusted him with my life. I thought that he was going to be somebody that was going to help me be the best that I could be, that I didn't even know that I could be. That's what I thought that I would get from him. So he was really pouring into me on a daily basis. And so I trusted everything about him. And he was older. He was like 32, 33. I was 18. So I looked at him as old. He was an old man. I didn't have no desire for him, like nothing. Was he a nice looking man? Yeah. But I didn't have no desire for him in any kind of way, and never displayed that. So February 14th, 1995, we go to dinner on Valentine's Day. He says, Vanessa, what are you doing this evening? I was like, nothing. I'm not dating. I don't have no date. I want to get out of the barracks. And for people that don't know the military language, the barracks is like a dorm. That's where the single soldiers stay. And I just went and said, yeah, let's go. Because we would go bowling, we would hang out all the time. But this just happened to be Valentine's Day. But it didn't mean anything to me because it wasn't a date. We go, we have dinner, we drink, laugh. And in Germany, you could drink at 18. So I started drinking in Germany. And because I thought I was grown. And we just had a good time. And during dinner, he said, you want to go back to my room and watch In Living Color? And for you that remember In Living Color, that was the show. Like, I was like, you got tapes, you got VCR tapes from the States of Living Color? Oh, I want to see that. So he was like, yeah. So we go back to his room. We watch all the season, the entire show of In Living Color, right? We're laughing, having a good old time. And then he said, have you heard the R. Kelly CD? So I was 18, poor. I didn't have no money to go buy CDs. They were really expensive then. So I was like, no, I haven't heard the R. Kelly CD. So he said, well, let me play it. So he put on 12 play, like the really good R. Kelly, the first jam from R. Kelly. And he had these large speaker systems in the room. So the music was super, super loud. And then I just said, this man is different. Like, he started looking at me different. Like, you know how you give somebody that look like they really like you or something? So I'm just getting kind of uncomfortable. And then the next thing I know, he was just on top of me. And I feel like he turned into a snake. I always describe his interaction with me was like a snake. Like, it wasn't nice. It was like all over me. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, should I scream? But I knew nobody was going to hear me. I felt like all of the military training that I can fight, all that left. And I didn't know. I had just questions running through my head. Like, what you doing? Am I going to get pregnant? Am I going to catch AIDS? Am I going to have an STD? Like, what's happening here? And so I just started talking to myself. Like, I went to this different space and just couldn't believe what was happening. Because it was like, this was somebody that I cared about. Like, this was my ace. This was the person that motivated me. And he took advantage. And so after he was done with his business, he was like, hey, ain't nobody gonna believe you. And I was like, so not only that, you knew what you did to me was wrong. And you telling me not to tell nobody, but you didn't say it, but that's what you meant. So I just was like lost and confused. And so I lived in the next building. So that night I walked to my next building. I got in my room. We had wall lockers that we would keep our stuff in. So I got the wall lockers. I pushed it up to the door because I didn't want him to come to my room or to come back. Like, I didn't want to have any engagement. And I just cried myself to sleep. That morning I woke up, I was like, dang, he right. Nobody gonna believe me. Because one, he was high speed. The commander loved him. He had all the awards, very charismatic. And I was in his room. I went to his room. So wasn't no way nobody was going to believe me, right? And so I got up, got ready for PT. And I already told y'all I don't like to run. I don't like PT, right? I ran like 4 miles that morning. Killed it. And I made a promise that I wasn't going to tell anybody. And that it wasn't important no more. And I was just going to keep going. And when I got back to work the next day, that day, he was there. He didn't say nothing to me about it, and I didn't say nothing to him, but it changed. We were never the same. He didn't come talk to me as much anymore. If he did, it was only about business. It wasn't about my career anymore. It wasn't about friendship. It wasn't no more invites to go bowling. It was different, and I didn't want to deal with him, but I had to. Like, we had to interact, and I didn't want people to think that I was disrespectful or that I was the problem. So I just acted like nothing happened and kept going on living my life. How does trauma show up in your life? The crazy thing is you don't even realize the trauma showing up in your life. I have forgot about being sexually assaulted. I suppressed being sexually assaulted so low, I did not remember it. But how it was showing up in my life was through relationships. I didn't want to really be in a relationship with anybody, but I felt like if I got married, that would be the opportunity for me to have somebody to protect me, to be safe, right? And so I was assaulted in February. By December, I was married to an amazing soldier that I thought was a protector, a provider, and that I could get out of the barracks because I didn't want to live there anymore. I wanted to get away and be safe. So Getting married showed up as a trauma in my life. I went to school. I did a lot of education. I have 2 doctorates. And people be like, you got 2 doctorates? I have 2 doctoral degrees. And that's because if I was busy, I didn't have to concentrate on my own life. I didn't have to sit with trauma. I always was busy. I kept myself busy. It showed up through depression, not knowing why I was depressed, not knowing why I would cry and not know why I was crying. It showed up through suicidal ideations, not wanting to live, not wanting to be on this earth anymore, and not knowing why. It showed up in alcoholism, drinking every day to go to sleep. It showed up through being very hypervigilant, checking the doors, not trusting people. It showed up through being very hypersexual, wanting to have sex with men and not caring about them at all, being in very unhealthy sexual relationships, and very risky behavior. And that's some of the trauma that showed up after being sexually assaulted but not understanding. So for me, part of probably being able to cope as a coping mechanism to be able to really continue on being a soldier, being a mother, being a wife, being a student, I feel like my life evolved into different personalities. It's not that I even feel like it did. My life evolved in these protective mechanisms. Like I say that different personalities started showing up to help me cope, to help me evolve, to help me establish myself. So first it was Private Dunn, right? I was still a soldier, doing all the things that I needed to do. And then was Vanessa. So Dr. Vanessa showed up. That was the civilian side, being a government employee, going to church, being a mother in the community, volunteering. And then Latrice, she was the don't mess with Vanessa. She was my protector. She was the one that showed up and said, if you hurt her, she's going to hurt you back. If you even think that you're going to get over on her, she's coming for you. She was the one that was very promiscuous. She was the one that would drink. She was the one who everybody liked. And sometimes people would still meet me and say, hey, Latrice. And I'm like, no. I can't even talk to you because you met me when you weren't supposed to meet me, So that's how they evolved, to just protect me. And so the 3 personalities existed. Defining moment, the first one was I was in the Columbia Mall, Columbia, South Carolina. I was in the mall, shopping, having a good day. And who I call infantryman looked like he came out of the store. And I had an entire trigger. I had a whole entire breakdown. I'm crying, screaming, like, oh my God. Can y'all imagine me in the mall, just all upset? And it just had all these memories started coming back. Like that moment, the snake came back in that moment. And there was a little old lady, a white lady, really sweet lady. If I ever get to see her again, she was my angel. I don't even know if I ever see her again. She came, she said, it's okay, baby. And she calmed me down and she walked me to my car. And she sat there with me till I could get myself together. And I went home and I drank until I couldn't get my life together. I was crying. And I called my girlfriend Tasha and I said, I think something's wrong because I can't stop crying. And she took me to the VA hospital, an adoring VA hospital, who I'm so grateful for. And I was so drunk that they couldn't even admit me. Like I had to sit in the waiting room because I couldn't be admitted. And once I calmed down a little bit, I was there for a week. And that was the first time that I told somebody. That was a defining moment. And then the next one was that I was tired. The defining moment was I had tried to stop drinking. I had kept trying. And I went to a conference. And it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I met who I call Mama Mildred and Mama May. And they poured into me at that conference. And I was in a space where God started talking to me. And it was it's time for you to hush no more and really share your story and get it together and create a space to not only help you heal, but to help other people heal. Hush No More was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I knew that that was what I was called to do because I didn't tell anybody. And there's a lot of men and women like me that never shared. I have learned many lessons through healing. One lesson I learned was that we have to eliminate the shame to heal. We have to forgive ourselves. We have to understand that it's not our fault what somebody did to us. It doesn't matter where you were, what you had on. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So you have to get to that point. And also that it is your responsibility to start healing. It is your journey to make a change. And for me, that was having a daughter. My daughter Tiara is phenomenal. She's a Reiki master, a healer. And she had all the healing modalities that I needed to start healing, to start changing my life. I didn't want to be unhappy anymore. I didn't want to keep drinking. I didn't want to be in a place that I didn't want to be anymore. I was tired and sick and tired. And that's when I knew that it was time for me to start healing and to create a natural, holistic way, because I had been on all different type of antidepressants over the years, all different type of medications. And I didn't want to be on that anymore. I just wanted Vanessa to exist, to live the best life that she could possibly lead. And I have grandchildren now, and I didn't want my grandkids to see that part of me. What I know for sure about Vanessa is that she is freaking amazing. Vanessa is the bomb. She is smart. She is talented. She could change the world. And I got butterfly tears. These are not tears of sadness. I know that Vanessa could do what she wants to do, and that Vanessa can limit herself because God is an unlimited ceiling is what God has created for Vanessa. And if she thinks it can occur. She just has to do it. And that she is the game changer to change the lives of people, to create that space for people to elevate and to use all the crap that she's been through to be able to set an example for others of what healing looks like and what overcoming looks like. That is Vanessa. My life purpose was encoded in my story. When I decided to hush no more, my life changed. And when I left from a place of poverty, a place of where I was not supposed to be anyway, I elevated. But I needed my childhood. I needed my family. I needed my soldiers, all those experiences. I needed my children because they created the woman that I am today. My hopes and dreams. Well, first of all, I'm excited that I got hopes and dreams, because when you're suicidal and you don't want to live, it's a happy place to have hopes and dreams. I can see myself, one, meeting my mentor, who she doesn't know she's my mentor, but she is. It's Oprah Winfrey. Because I want to be able to reach audiences of like 20, 30,000 people, to be able to speak life into them, to encourage them to heal, to make them feel good, to make them smile, to show people love and kindness, and realizing that we all can live the life that we imagine if we just go for it. So that's my goal. I want to change the world by meeting people and traveling all over the world. I also want to meet India Ari. And I'm saying this because I am manifesting it, because I've learned so much from her music, from her podcast. We're the same age, and I feel like on this planet we all have people that we kind of walk a similar journey with. And for me, that's India Ari, and being able to be impactful through my words, my life, setting the example, and being the beacon of hope and love to change the world with love and kindness. The 3 things that you could do to heal and to transform your life is, 1, admit that you're not having the life that you want and that there's something going on. You just got to admit that to yourself. You got to look at your life and say, yeah, I'm drinking every day. Yeah, My trauma is showing up. Yes, I can see the example in her story. You gotta admit that to yourself. 2, you gotta be willing to put in the work. You can't say, well, God gonna make a way. You can't wait for other people to do stuff. God has already made a way. You just gotta make the step. It takes work to be able to heal and to get the life that you want. You can do it. You just gotta want to do it and put in the work. We don't get to the levels that we are by just hoping and wishing and writing things in our journal. We gotta put action to those ideas. And 3, never look at other people's circumstances and judge your own circumstances. We are all on our different paths. We're on different levels. We have different experiences. And can't nobody tell you who you should be and what you should be, and where they are is not where you are. You have the opportunity to do anything that your mind dreams of, and going out there to find it. Looking for natural, holistic ways to heal things that resonate with you. Those are my 3 things. If I listen to what my heart is trying to tell me, I will learn more about energy healing and continue getting all the information that I can that is going to elevate me holistically from an energetic way. My heart is telling me that there's so much more out there that I just gotta find the answers and be. And that's what my heart is telling me, that the answers are out there and the answer lies within me. And I just gotta keep moving.